Good evening, everyone. Sorry about that. So we are doing questions and answers. There are 16 questions on the site, 15 now. I dropped one accidentally, and I deleted a few. If you feel like your question was deleted unfairly, you can always try resubmitting it, but we are trying to be a little bit selective about the questions. Anyway, the one that I mistakenly selected as answered before I actually answered it, we'll start there. My mother does not like my interest in Buddhism. How do I convince her otherwise? Convincing your parents of the goodness of good things is a very great thing to do because of how much benefit they've been to you. So, I mean, the real question is whether Buddhism is a good thing. And that should be the focus here. It shouldn't be about converting people to a specific religion. But your question, I think, asks it quite... well, you want to convince your mother to like your interest in Buddhism. So the point is to not be too concerned about Buddhism, but to be concerned about the appreciation of good things. And so the reasons why people don't appreciate good things, assuming that Buddhism is a good thing, which we do, we should, not exactly assume, but we have appreciation ourselves of Buddhism, having seen the benefits of it and the wisdom of it. So the reasons why people don't appreciate good things, the most obvious one is just simple delusion and ignorance. But I think the more common one is wrong view. And wrong view can come from many forms. It often comes from religious views, views about cosmology and soteriology and even ontology and epistemology. But soteriology is the big one, I think. A lot of people have preconceived notions about what is going to lead to freedom, to happiness. If you follow the teachings, these teachings, specific teachings, you'll be saved. If you follow other teachings, doesn't matter what they are. Them not being the right teachings, you'll go to hell. That kind of thing. That's common. Another one is for those who are anti-religious, people who are immediately reactionary towards spirituality. And spirituality is probably a bad word, but for lack of a better word, we just mean teachings that try and find higher meaning than simply eat, drink, and be merry, or money, the good life here and now, that kind of thing. Teachings that try to find greater meaning, that try to answer questions of why we're here. For people who are militantly secular, this is a threat, or not a threat, but it's a danger. It's not a danger. It's considered to be dangerous to the individual. Misleading them into delusion is the idea, right? If you start talking about the afterlife, you're delusional. You're going beyond the empirical, with the idea that maybe you're being brainwashed, you have blind faith, that sort of thing. So I mean, it does depend to some extent on all of those factors. If it's just merely ignorance and fear and confusion, delusion, in a simple sense, it's a lot easier. But when you're dealing with religious views or scientific views or those kind of things, it gets more difficult. I think the process of bettering the situation is still similar. With views, it's just more thorny, more tricky, more complicated. But the process is generally much less about convincing people and much more about showing them, an example. And being clear yourself in what is good. Right? Because when you deal with entities, it's very easy to oppose a thing like Buddhism. And so if it comes from Buddhism, well, that's an easy target. If you have fear, it's easy to latch on to Buddhism as something bad. It's much harder to latch on to good things, If I give charity, it's hard to oppose charity. People do it, and that's a dire straits. That's a sign of very wrong view if they do. Calm, happiness, patience, clarity of mind, these kinds of things. I think family is often a litmus test of how good you're doing in meditation. If your family's reacting to your practice, that's a good sign in the beginning, because it's shaking them up as well. Meditation does shake you up. It takes you out of your comfort zone. And that's disturbing, not just for you, but for the people who like you the way you are, who are disturbed by change. But in the long run, your ability to cultivate appreciation in others is a sign of progress. So in the long term, if people see you as an arrogant, conceited, bigoted, proselytizing, militant Buddhist, well, then you may be doing something wrong. So practically speaking, the best advice I can give, especially in the short term or in the beginning stages, is to focus more on your own progress without worrying about trying to change other people. With a qualifier that rather than trying to convince your mother, you should shift the focus on good things. If your mother doesn't want you to be Buddhist, then don't be Buddhist. Doesn't mean you can't be mindful, right? Mindfulness is always good. So I hope that helps. It's not a clear answer. These sorts of questions don't have specific answers, but hopefully that points you in the right direction. It deals with reverse psychology as well. The more you try to push things on people, the more reactionary they become. So trying to convince people is often the worst thing you can do. Let them convince themselves when they see how good it is for you. Okay, here's one from Devadatta. Well, that's disturbing. The Buddha always shows, in the story of Devadatta, the Buddha always shows his compassion shows him compassion despite his corrupt mind. How come you are so quick to censor and ban people on your website who you deem corrupt? Should you not be compassionate towards corrupt people on your website? Yes. Yeah, we've had discussions about this. I've reminded people only to ban others if they're being truly vile. I don't think it's as clear-cut as you suggest. The Buddha wasn't just allowing Devadatta to do whatever he wanted. The Buddha, with Devadatta and other monks, at various points, made various statements to the effect of denouncing them and that sort of thing. But it was complicated, to say the least. He certainly did apply punishment and banishment to various monks. But here we're dealing with lay people, so we want to be a little bit less disciplinary, right? Monks should be treated more harshly than lay people, certainly. That being said, what we're dealing with here is a complicated situation. We're trying to... I mean, you could sort of find a parallel in people going to the monastery to listen to the Buddha's teachings. And even in that point, if there was someone who was disruptive, the lay people themselves would kick the person out. So I, as a monk, don't have to do it. The teacher didn't have to do it. The lay people would do it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, if it's done compassionately. I mean, you raise a good point, that those people who are being ejected, it should be done with a view to their welfare as well. And I think it certainly can be, because spewing vile nonsense in a Buddhist forum is very bad karma. So it's in their best interest to not do that. And sometimes being ejected is the best way forward for them. That being said as well, you sometimes have to triage, which means if someone is just beyond help, well, let's help the people who can be helped, and having this person distract them is not really helping them. So, but there is a sensitivity there for sure, and what you bring up is, I think, proper to bring up, that we should be sensitive, and we should never ever just discount someone as worthless. At least not out of hand. I mean, could be the Buddha did say at some point that you're worthless, so some people could be potentially worthless. I think that's just rhetoric. It's not worthless, but not really worth our time, unfortunately. It's like a person who is bleeding to death. You can talk about compassion all you want, but you can't save that person. If they're beyond help, they're beyond help. That was sort of the case with Devadatta. Eventually the Buddha just kind of ignored him, because there was no help. Which, we can do on this, but I don't think there's a valid point that you're making, a valid criticism in the overall, because you do need to maintain order in these sorts of very complicated situations like the internet, to some extent. But definitely good to think about. Something we should always think about. Anyone who has the power to ban or censure someone should not treat that power lightly, to say the least. During meditation, I observe all my different thoughts and emotions that arise and then cease. This will be passing. Okay, so you should read my booklet on how to meditate, if you haven't already. Insight meditation is based on mindfulness. So what you're talking about is a kind of mindfulness. Now, hopefully you're also using the mantra to remind yourself. That, to me, is the best way to cultivate this quality of sati, or mindfulness. And once that arises, there will arise vipassana, which seeing things clearly, and you'll see that the things that you thought were stable, satisfying, and controllable are not stable, not satisfying, and not controllable. The things that you cling to are not worth clinging to. It's not just a static state like the way you describe it. You should start to change the way you look at things and be less reactionary and more patient, and start to let go of some of the things you cling to. Okay, long question. Okay, the Buddha loved others like he loved his own son. I said the Buddha loved others like he loved his own son and would not turn his back on evil. He would not, by not turning his back, he would not create more karma, right? Okay. As a parent of more than one child, I can love more than one child equally, but I'm faced with the responsibility of making decisions that are prudent for all who are involved. Therefore, although I could love someone that was evil and not turn my back on them, I may not allow them to do certain things if I felt it may be harmful to themselves or others. Is it a Buddhist position to not consider the collateral effects that allowing evil to continue would ensue on others, and consider their intentions only? This is something I've witnessed in some temples. Thank you. Yeah, it's a complicated situation. I mean, being a parent is complicated. And it may not even be solvable. Ideally, I would want to say that you let your children, you refrain from forcing anything on them. Unfortunately, in modern society, that doesn't really work. Right? You could get in serious legal trouble if you just let your children learn for themselves, or relied only upon advice, offering them advice and information. But I think there is room for a person in a position of authority to lay down the law, to lay down rules. The question is, how far should you go? What if they disobey the rules? Should you hit them? Corporal punishment, is that okay? I don't think so, but I have heard situations where it was the only answer, and it did solve the immediate problem. The child was going to get themselves and other people hurt, and so corporal punishment, light corporal punishment of just a smack or something, stop that. Now, I've heard this. I don't know how I feel about that. I understand the complicated dilemma. I don't know if I actually have an answer to this one. It's very complicated. My answer is, of course, don't have kids. Why? Because you're taking on students who you don't know what they're like. You don't know what their interests are. You don't know if they want to listen to you. I wouldn't want to take on a student who didn't want to listen to me. I have a hard enough time with the students who do want to listen to me. That's not really true. My students are generally very well behaved. Really well behaved. I don't generally have problems with students, so that's not a problem. But I would if I went out trying to find students and say, hey, come and learn from me. I'll teach you, and that would be scary. But that's not an answer to your problem, to your dilemma. So, I mean, I think the one thing I can offer, of course, is the one thing that is probably pretty obvious to you, is be mindful. And if you find yourself getting stressed and worried and angry and frustrated, it's a sign you're doing something wrong. Now, can you just fix that? No, probably not. But that's where I would do my work, right? And mothers change their views a lot, having done insight meditation courses. So, I mean, generally mothers, and not to be sexist, but it is generally a mother-child thing still in most societies and most cultures. Fathers as well, for sure, but there's something, of course, about a mother, the bond between a mother and a child. And it's, of course, a physical bond because you did give birth to them and often were breastfeeding them as well. But there's a change that goes on through meditation. So, I mean, I know you're meditating. That's, of course, something that you should continue, and that I would say should certainly help. But the general sense of not getting involved in other people's karma, it's a fine line. I think it's used a lot more nowadays when things are getting, I mean, we claim that things are getting a lot worse, and it's just much harder to maintain order even in monasteries. So to some extent, I think it's getting more lax purposefully, because there's just not much you can do about really bad monks when they're totally corrupt. But I think on the other hand, it's always been like that. There's always been sort of a sense that I'm not your God. I'm not the one to control you. So the rules are there. If you don't follow them, it's not my problem. It's your problem. I don't know. I mean, it's not exactly like that. There are rules and procedures in effect to help prevent that sort of thing, and they're often not enforced as well as they might be. So, I mean, that's something to appreciate. But I think Westerners are much too quick to try and control. We have a sense of very strong lawfulness, abiding by laws and so on. But that's, I think, something to be criticized. We're too quick to try and just fix the situation with legal systems, which are often just as bad in their results as letting things go. Often worse in their results, actually. So it's something to keep in mind. Mindfulness is often the best way to help find answers to specific situations like this. I'm afraid of losing the things about myself that used to bring others happiness. Okay, well, be mindful of it, Be mindful of the fear. There's no, you don't have to let go of anything. You let go of the things that you know are causing stress and suffering, the things that are useless. So our claim, generally, is that that sort of thing is useless. Those things that you thought brought other people happiness are useless. That fear is certainly useless. But those are just claims. You don't have to believe them. It's just observations from someone who's been through the forest. You go into the forest, you look around, you learn about your mind. You'll find the answers yourself. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be afraid because you'll never let go of something that you like. If you like bringing other people happiness, like telling jokes, you're never going to let go of it. The only way you let go of it is if you get tired of it and you see, oh, that's really useless. So I'm not going to give you the answers there. You have to look and you'll find them yourself. Okay, here, again I pushed the wrong button. This question is full of dots. Dot. Okay, the question, it's long. In meditation, I never see feelings like craving or hate the way I see in real life. How can I see craving, aversion, lust, fear, excitement, liking, disliking? I never see. Dot. I mean, it's not really a problem, but I get it. You have these things in real life, but when you meditate, they don't come. Well, I would stress that you should follow okay, so using the mantra, if craving arises, saying craving, same as pain. Okay, but you say in meditation it doesn't arise. I mean, you may be feeling very calm in meditation. Probably the best answer to your problem is to come and do an intensive course. I guarantee there will be some liking and disliking if I put you through the ringer, is that what I'm saying? If we give you the challenges of an intensive meditation course. I mean, probably you're not in a position to come all the way out to where I am, but if you can, that's the best way, not just here, but find some place to do an intensive course, because it's much more challenging. But that being said, it should come up, even in ordinary practice. So maybe you're just not being as comprehensive in your practice as you might be. Try and be mindful of calm feelings, happy feelings, if that's all you're feeling, if you feel quiet. Often these things are temporary. Be mindful of what is there, don't worry about what is not, because it's all interesting, it's all useful, it's all beneficial to be mindful of. That's the best I can do for you. Be happy that you have these periods of no liking or disliking. What is the better English word for panya? Wisdom or intelligence? I don't know. Wisdom for sure. I don't know why I'd use intelligence for panya. But specific types of panya might be considered intelligence in the modern sense. Again, they're just words. Panya means full knowledge. It's a special kind of knowledge, or a proper knowledge, higher knowledge, that sort of thing. Because nya means to know, means knowledge. Ba means like powerful or strong, that sort of thing. Right, good. Can walking meditation be done without holding the hands together, like if they stay within pockets? It could be, but why? Is there a reason? That reason is often the problem, and you should focus on the pain, maybe, or the distraction, Whatever's making you think that it's going to be better if you put your hands in your pockets, just be careful that it's not a trick or a avoiding of something or that sort of thing. Holding your hands together is a pretty good, solid meditative pose. In your pockets, it's a little too relaxed, I would say. But technically, yes, there's nothing to do with the bodily posture in a technical sense. Is Nibbana both uncaused and not causing the Sangha? Why do you care? What good is this? What good will this question do for you? Is this what's going to make you enlightened if I answer this? No. All these questions. I'm going to start scolding you. I'm going to keep scolding you. I've been scolding you. Alright, is Nibbana both uncaused? So you have to understand what you mean here, what you're asking here. Uncaused means from this moment to the moment right after it. Nibbana isn't caused by anything because Nibbana isn't arising. So what could you mean by Nibbana being caused? But if you mean, does the experience of Nibbana have any results? Of course it has results. Is the experience of Nibbana affected by other causes? Of course it is. But Nibbana itself, it's not possible to cause it, because cause means make arise, right? That's what cause means. Make happen. Nibbana doesn't happen. It's not happening. So if you have a doubt about this, it's because of a confusion between actual momentary cause, which is this arises, and then because of that, or always right after this arises. After A, B arises, always, right? That's cause. And that's one kind of cause. There are different kinds of cause, like auxiliary cause, or causing by coming together at the same time, that sort of thing. Dhamma doesn't arise, so it's not susceptible to that sort of a system. But practically speaking, the experience of Nibbana there's reasons for it, causes for it, and it has results. What did I do? What am I looking at here? Oh, okay. Why is the order of the Four Noble Truths of 3 and 4 that order? You would need the Eightfold Noble Path to reach Nibbana, so how can Nibbana be before? Yes, but there is a very specific reason for that. You're looking at it the wrong way. If you asked me that, then I could ask you, well, isn't it true that suffering requires a cause? So shouldn't the second one be before the first one as well? Think about it. One, effect, then cause. Effect, then cause. It's a effect, cause. That's the ordering. This is suffering. This is the cause of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the cause of the cessation of suffering. It's purposeful that it's in that order. But I wouldn't read too much into it. The Buddha actually, when he taught, the first time he taught these, he taught the fourth one first. It became the first thing he taught, right? Before he taught the Four Noble Truths, he taught the fourth Noble Truth, which is the path. And for a specific reason, I think, but nonetheless, he did. How should I process joy when I meditate? I find that I am filled with an intense happiness. Is happiness the issue, or is the clinging to the happiness the issue? The clinging to the happiness is the issue. And the not being mindful of it is an issue. So if you haven't read my booklet, I would recommend you read my booklet. It's pretty clear. When you're happy, you say happy, happy. So joy, joy. If you like it, you would say liking, liking. And that's the problem. Be very clear, because liking can be dangerous. I mean, it's addictive. It's habit forming, and that's a problem in the long run. Is it considered having doubt in the Buddha if one only believes in the practice in this life but does not fully accept other realms and certain aspects of the afterlife? No, it's considered wrong view if you don't accept, if you deny the afterlife, say, if you deny rebirth, the potential for the mind to continue after death. It's wrong view. It's mundane wrong view, so it's not that big of a deal. It's wrong view because it's wrong, because it goes against what really actually is true. but is it something that's going to get in the way of your practice? Not likely. If you have doubt, no, doubt in the Dhamma is like the things the Buddha taught, are they good for you? Doubt about the Buddha is, was the Buddha really enlightened? That kind of doubt. But that kind of doubt is only gone when you become a Sotapanna. So of course, once you become a Sotapanna, then you're like, yeah, what the Buddha taught was truly enlightening, and the Buddha was truly enlightened for sure, because, wow, it works. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Doubt is normal during the practice. You don't have to give up doubt before you practice. You give up doubt as you practice and after you finish practicing. Okay, this one is about tiredness. It's long, so I'm not going to read it all. But opinion on quick fixes, basically. So it's a quick fix for the hindrance of tiredness. And yes, so a quick fix is just that. It doesn't actually solve the problem. It's a Band-Aid. Are Band-Aids useful? Yes, Band-Aids are useful. Are they going to get rid of the infection? No, they're not going to get rid of the infection. They're useful. You can use all the quick fixes you want. Just don't let them be a replacement for practice. And that's the problem, is we often do, and we think, okay, I'll do this. Oh, it worked. Oh, I'll do it again. And you rely on it, and then eventually it doesn't work, and you start to wonder why. And by that time, you're so lost, you're not being mindful anymore. You're off track. But if you want to use quick fixes, that's fine. I mean, especially in the beginning, you might need a lot of them. Coming to do a meditation course here is a kind of a quick fix. I mean, why can't you just be mindful in daily life? Well, theoretically you can, but you need support. There are lots of different ways of helping your practice, but let them just be helping, let them not be the practice themselves. So obviously when you're tired, the best way is to say tired. You've just got to work at that. You've just got to get good at that. And in the meantime, yeah, there's lots of little tricks you can perform. They're only going to help you in the short term though, so don't rely on them. Okay, here's the one about tragedies. Can one be the subject to negative actions of others without it being related to the victim's prior actions in this life or prior? Right, as some people say, it's directly, like if you get shot this life, well, you must have shot someone in your past life. Is that true? I don't know, except to say that it's complicated. And I don't know that it's a good idea to go down that route. You know, I mean, it sounds like I'm sidestepping the issue, but there is an important point that, why are you asking this question? And it sounds like I may be avoiding the question because I'm afraid you'll doubt me if I don't have an answer, but that's not really the case. It actually doesn't help you to think like this. You can start to think about the past, and if you could see past lives, you'd start to see some connections. Like, oh yes, look, I got myself in this position and with all these people who hated me and that sort of thing. And maybe some interesting points where you say, oh look, I did kill this person in a past life, maybe, you know. But that wouldn't help you. That would help you, I mean, it will give you great faith in Buddhism, and you'd be like, wow, yeah, no, I agree with all this karma stuff. So you'd think, wow, that helped me, but it wouldn't really. It's not enlightening. It doesn't make you a better person. It'd be great if we could all have that sort of knowledge, which is possible to gain through remembering your past lives and so on, but it's not the answer, and it's a waste of time to some extent. I mean, if you can gain those magical powers, great, but while you were doing that, you could have been purifying your mind, you know, becoming a better person, and then not having to worry about such questions. Because if you're a pure person, why do you wouldn't worry about what's going to happen if I'm an evil person? Why? Because you have no potential for evil. You don't have to worry about that sort of question. I mean, so the quick answer to your question is I don't really know. Clearly we have a sense of cause and effect, and that you can see. You can see here and now. You can see how anger changes you and corrupts things. It changes your relationships with others. The question of, I mean, so really, I mean, I guess it's not even that I don't know, it's that it's quite clear that that's in line with reality as we know it. I mean, look around you. You hurt someone, do they not seek vengeance? Is that not the nature of the world? It's really just a problem of taking the leap that, hey, that continues after you die, and it doesn't just suddenly stop or change into something completely different. It actually just continues as you'd expect it to. Yep, they still hate me in the next life, or yep, they still have it out for me, or they, and other things, right? I still put myself in bad situations because of my messed up mind. I'm so messed up that I put myself in the line of fire. That's apparently how it works, right? You're born in a position to be killed because you're so messed up in the mind, because you've killed lots of people, and it's all you can think about. And there's this very intense sense of guilt, really, that is most often suppressed. But try to get these people to meditate. If they do actually make it, the guilt that they'll feel is just intense. So yeah, I mean, it's quite clear that yes, there is relationship, but it's not really the best sort of thing to think about. Was I in the past? What was I in the past? Those kind of things. Not helpful. But you make interesting points. Like, it seems like a bit eye for an eye, and it seems certainly not to be eye for an eye completely. But in another way, it kind of is. I mean, it's not one-to-one relationship, but there are consequences. You do get hurt for the bad things you've done, generally speaking, to oversimplify it. And that you can see in this life, right? People often do bad things and then they wonder, what can I do to make up for it? Well, you can't, it's bad. It's going to have bad results. If it has any results, they're going to be bad. That's common for Buddhists, because they learn about karma, they learn how it's evil to do this and evil, and they say, well, what should I do? Well, there's nothing you can do. You did a dumb thing, and it's going to have consequences. You can ask for forgiveness until you're blue in the face. It's not going to change the fact that you messed up. So Buddhists, we often make a resolve. We say, what's the Pali? Ajatake, I think it says, no? Sort. Ayating avuso samvariyata. From here on, ayating means from this point on, samvariyata means you should guard yourself. That's what, and then we say ama bante. Yes, I will guard myself. Or sadhu bante, I think. What's the Buddhist view that can be applied to walking dogs' pets? That's a new one. I don't know that there really is one. I don't know what the problem here is, why you'd think that Buddhism would have a view on that, except to conjecture that the concept of having pets. I'm generally critical of the concept of having pets. It doesn't strike me as terribly Buddhist to have pets, because for two reasons. You're taking control over, like, lordship over another being, and also you're taking, again, it's the child problem. You're taking on a dependent who you don't have any sense that they're interested in good things. Generally, there's a lot of attachment associated with pets, and they're just for our comfort and so on. But often there's also attachment in the sense of trying to help them, give them a good life, which, honestly speaking, it sounds kind of cruel, I'm sure, but just helping someone physically isn't considered. It's good. It's good to help people physically. So helping dogs is a good thing. It's just a mundane good thing, and it's kind of missing the point, because there's beings being born and die all the time. If that's your goal in life, then go out into the forests and save all the wild animals as well, because I don't know. I mean, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. Let's stop there. It's good. It's good to help animals. If it's about helping them, it's a good thing. Be careful that it doesn't consume you, I guess I'd still have to warn. because helping animals is really tough. And in the end, it's just not a lot of help you can do. I heard that some monks in the East believe Mara helped form Mahayana Buddhism. I almost deleted this one because it's not really a nice question. Is Mahayana Buddhism formed by Mara? I think some Theravada Buddhists would say yes. I'm not going to give an answer because this is live on the internet, but certainly there are aspects of Buddhism, things that are called Buddhism, that seem very suspiciously Mara. They have the signature of Mara on them, I would say. And I won't name names or traditions, but I think there's certainly room for such a view. There's what better way to confuse people than to change Buddhism, right? But, Mara is much more a momentary thing. Mara is something that tricks you in the moment, so rather than talk about types of Buddhism, let's talk about views and mind states and that sort of thing, because that's what Mara gives rise to. What is the main difference in meaning between the sentences, this I am not and this is not myself? Okay. There is a difference, and there's an important difference. So let's think of the Pali. Netam mama, this is not mine, that's clearly different. Ne sohang asmi. Ne sohang asmi. This I am not. I am not X. I am not this thing. I'm not something. Neso meyata. This thing is not myself. So I would separate the word my and self. This is not myself. In the sense of my soul, this is not the entity that is me. This is not. And so the difference from a doctrinal point of view, is Netam Mama refers to craving, so possessiveness. Nesohang asmi is conceit. I am not this, I am not that. And Neso meyata, this is not myself, is view. So they're actually kind of just examples of these three, because the three ways to cling to something are through ditthi, mana, and tanha, views, conceit, and craving. And that's outlined by these three sentences. So for a translation, you don't have to really make it clear, but when you explain it, you have to make it clear that there's a difference. So I would make it clear that the first one is trying to equate me and something else. It could be a quality of mind. I am angry. I am good. I am bad. I am better. I am worse. I am this concept, really. If you think of the body and you think I am this body, that's associated with conceit. Or in one way it's associated with conceit. Now, if the other one, the third one, then that's where you say, yes, this is who I am. This is, you understand when it becomes like a view. Again, don't worry too much about the translations. It's just when we explain them, what it's supposed to represent is the difference between conceit, when you don't have a view of something, but you have a sense that I am. It's a pride, conceit, that sort of thing. As opposed to, yes, that is me, right? That is, of course, that's me. This hand is who I am. It's a view. It's a different problem. Hard to really put into words, but definitely a different problem experientially. Hopefully that helps. Why are some old people not very wise? Well, I don't know. I mean, it's not that hard to understand. Just because you live your life doesn't mean you live your life well. I guess a good answer might be that they didn't have good instruction through their lives, and so they lived their lives all wrong. But it's not really all that complicated. I mean, age doesn't make you wise, of course, or we'd all be enlightened in this life, or eventually. Today, according to Burmese calendar, is the day the Buddha came back from one of the Deva realms. According to, no, it's not. 10/4/2017. Maybe. Shouldn't be. Today is... oh, today is. Yes, today is... Sorry. Today is the end of the rains. Is it today or tomorrow? Sorry, I've been in school all day. I should know this. This is the end of the rains today. So, what's the question? Yes. May I know your opinion to the Abhidhamma, as I have heard there are some monks who think Abhidhamma is not the genuine teaching by the Buddha. Right, so we're studying the Abhidhamma right now. My opinion is it is very much in line with the teaching of the Buddha. I don't think there's anything in there that would strike warning bells with me that, hey, this is out of line. But a lot of people do, and as you say, they criticize the Abhidhamma, which is fine. You know, we're all... Well, it's not really... It's not really fine because... Again, I think it's blowing it very much out of proportion. There's very little in the Abhidhamma to me that is objectionable. But again, as I've said in our study group, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of people don't get a clear picture of reality. You know, they're doing a lot more tranquility meditation, metta and samatha and that sort of thing. And so they don't have the same appreciation for this enumeration of reality as someone who delves right into the ultimate realities themselves and is mindful of them. It seems like, to some extent, the Abhidhamma is a product of the Buddha's disciples who put it together based on what the Buddha taught to his mother up in heaven. But no, I mean, I don't... What I would say, as with anything, is, is what the Buddha said. If it's in line with what's good, then it's good. If it's not in line with what is good, then it's bad. It's not good. And of course, what's in line with what is good is subject to debate. Right, everyone has their own ideas, so it's not that simple, but that's more important than getting a clear sense of who exactly taught what. And that's all the questions for tonight.